Hey guys. Okay, so in last week's video, we kind of started the conversation about why people shouldn't hate on developers so much. More specifically, I threw some statistics at you guys to kind of highlight just how much of an outlier Brisbane is in terms of our proportion of detached dwellings in comparison to things like high uses like units, apartments, all of that sort of stuff, not only across the world but also here within Australia. And then I went down the path of explaining how town planning rules and regulations have kind of contributed to that outcome. And then we went down the path of going, those rules and regulations, well, they're created by policymakers who are voted in by constituents, and those constituents, they're driven by fears. So guys, let's talk about those fears. So my last week's video was kind of an intro into the topic, and this week's video, my plan was to kind of press on those pain points in a positive kind of way. Basically to force people to question why they have those fears and to think, is there a different way of approaching this sort of hot topic or those fears and those concerns going forward? Anyway, that was my plan. Unfortunately, I've been thinking about it over the last couple of days about what I want to say, and I'm like, you know what, there is just way too much that I'm trying to cram into this video. Unfortunately, I need to accept that I need to break it up into an additional video. So instead of being a 2-part video series, this is going to be a 3-part video series. It's annoying because unfortunately Christmas is just around the corner, so it means you guys are going to have to wait for part number 3. It's going to be a few weeks because I'm going to take a break on social media over the Christmas break. But yeah, it is what it is. So the plan for today, we're going to talk about why. Why should you care about all of this sort of stuff? Well, quite simply, if we don't allow for smaller lot sizes, if we don't allow to get more people into an area, it results in urban sprawl. Why is urban sprawl such a big problem? Well, there's so many different reasons, but I want to talk about 3 key ones in particular. So firstly, infrastructure. The more spread out you are, the more thinly you have to spread your money for infrastructure. So the further you need to build the train lines, the further the bus routes need to go, the more you need to spend on maintenance and all of that sort of stuff because you've got more lines to be able to care for, all of that sort of stuff. If we go back to the video that I did, I think it was a few weeks ago on Singapore, I think I made the point to say that's one of the reasons they've been so successful. Everything is so compact and condensed, so they get a lot more bang for their buck. So yeah, if we spread things out more, we've got to spend more money on infrastructure, we get less value for money and all of that sort of stuff. It's not a great outcome. Number 2, environment. Kind of obvious. Basically, the more you spread out, the more impact you're going to have on our green trees, our flora, our fauna, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, obviously that's not a great outcome. But the one I wanted to talk about a little bit more detail is housing affordability. So again, the more you spread out, the more money people are going to have to spend on houses. So if everything is equal in terms of block size, block topography, size of house, style of house, construction level, all of those sort of things. So if we're comparing apples to apples, with the exception of location, one property is located close to the city, one property is located further out of the city, you're going to spend more building the second house. Why? Well, quite simply, you've got to pay more money to get the labourers to travel out that further distance. You've got to pay for more time for the concrete truck so it can drive out further, etc., etc. So it costs more money to build a house. Also, obviously, the further you go out, the more space you have, therefore the bigger the people want to build the houses. Well, the bigger the houses people want to build. That should be what I'm trying to say here. Basically, the houses get bigger because people go, well, hold on a sec, I've got to make it stack up from a resale perspective. I've got the property size here. We just got to go bigger. So yeah, people end up spending more money on houses unnecessarily most of the time. Building on that though, there's also transport. So I was chatting to a guy at a Christmas party a couple of days ago. He's just moved from, I think it was Richlands to Jindalee, and he was basically saying to me that his fuel bill has halved. So instead of going through basically 1 tank of fuel a week, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's just say 1 tank of fuel a week, he was now saying he was spending going through half a tank. So yeah, people spend less money trying to get back into the city for work each day. So yeah, it's as we start to expand as a city, we start to impact on housing affordability. Now, this is playing out so clearly here in Brisbane at the moment. Like, it's ridiculous. To throw some statistics at you guys, it's generally accepted, I don't know whether it's a global thing or whether it's an Australian thing, but either way, it's generally accepted here in Australia that a rental vacancy rate of 3% is acceptable, it's healthy, it's workable. And if you're spending up to 30% of your household income on rent, mortgage, all of that sort of stuff, that's generally acceptable, that's workable. Like, it's a healthy standard, it's a nice balanced position to be in. In Brisbane at the moment, we're currently sitting at between 0.8 and 1% rental vacancy rate. Again, for comparison, 3% is where we should be. That is a massively reduced number. And then when we look at how much people are spending, I think the amount across Australia is 34.9%. Again, by comparison, it should be 30%. So the numbers very clearly are painting a picture here to say we've got problems. But it's not just the numbers, it's actually playing out in reality in front of us. So earlier, I think it was last week or something like that. I'm sure everyone's seen it by now. There was a video posted to social media. I saw it on the Courier Mail page, I think it was. Anyway, there was this video of the tent city in West End. So someone was driving along, panning, looking at all the different tents that are lined up there. I think there was like 72 different tents in a row. It just blew my mind watching that video. It was so sad to see such a obvious sign of the housing affordability crisis playing out in front of us. But it's not just that. Like when I go running in the mornings at the moment, there's two separate guys that I see regularly on the bike track that are sleeping rough, like sleeping under pergolas and all of that sort of stuff. The other day when I was driving out to my sister's place at 17 Mile Rocks, got on the Western Freeway at Toowong there, looked up, I don't know why it caught my attention, but looked up to the side, and in the middle of the bush I saw all these tents. I was like, wow, okay. And then the other day I actually went out and did some shopping, went to Windsor, pulled into the car park. They had extended trading hours because it was Christmas, so it was actually later at night. Pulled up, looked sideways, and there was two cars with their boots open and people sitting in camping chairs at the back of the boots having their dinner. And I was like, wow, this problem has just come out of nowhere. Like, it's obviously been building for a long time, but I just feel like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the visibility has gone through the roof. It's ridiculous. So this begs the question, why should you care about housing affordability and homelessness and all of that sort of stuff? Well, obviously, as an individual, it's a good thing to care about humans and other people around us. That's an obvious answer. But it's also important for society from a social perspective. Like homelessness leads to, generally speaking, leads to a lot of increased crime issues and all of that sort of stuff. But it's also an economic issue. So we as society are spending more money both in the immediate sort of situation in terms of catering for housing for people, catering for food for people, catering for all those sort of services. But then long term, if you're living in a homeless sort of situation, you're more likely to have chronic health issues or mental health issues and all of that sort of stuff. So again, society is having to fork out a lot more money as a result of these issues short term. So hopefully that gives you some insight. I'm not going to for 1 second pretend that this video has covered everything and it's giving you this comprehensive insight. The aim of today was just kind of to get people thinking about why we should care about this sort of stuff, so that when I get into that next video and I start challenging some of those preset thought processes, people are a little bit more willing to open their minds and listen. Okay, I think that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.